want to cry. I want to cry. I want to cry. Yo, what's up everyone? My name is Jet. Welcome back to episode of MDK Racing Victory Stop. It is hot as balls in my room right now because the AC is out once again. You pay nearly $1,000 a month for rent, and yet you can't have the AC work for longer than 2 weeks. Anyways, enough venting. As you can tell by me wearing the shirt, wow, what a roller coaster of emotions that race was. How is it that Texas, even though, don't get me wrong, Texas still got issues. We still got issues with Texas, but how is it possible that Texas is probably one of the more exciting playoff races we've seen so far? How? This race was very chaotic right from the beginning. Now, Bubba Wallace, he started on pole. He led the first 40 some odd laps. He led the early way, but then we saw a slew of cautions that surrounded around the issue of tires. And we thought, oh God, we're getting flashbacks to last year when drivers couldn't go more than like 15-20 laps without wrecking due to tire failures. Lap 42, Austin Dillon crashed in turn 3 after the right rear wheel came off the car. Lap 54, Todd Gilliland spun on the backstretch after losing a right rear wheel. And then we had an interesting moment with Kyle Busch, a playoff driver. Now, he had been reporting issues with the right front tire of his car going off or going down, whatever the case may be. He was having an issue with that right front tire for multiple laps, and then it seemed to have gone away. Maybe he just got up out of the groove and had to take a couple laps for the dirt to get off his tires. And then he went spinning. Lap 74, Busch from the 8th position spun in turn 2 and makes massive contact with the outside wall and ends up out of the race behind the wall, done for the day. A lot of people had Kyle Busch out in the round of 12, and so far it is not a good start for that 18, considering the fact that even though he's going to start, I think he finished dead last in this race or near dead last. Next week is Talladega. Even though he has won there, he's going to be at Talladega 12th place in the playoff grid. He is the lowest of all playoff drivers at the moment. We then saw an unusual moment between Ty Gibbs and Denny Hamlin, where Ty Gibbs, I don't know what he was thinking, but he pulls off a pit road and then chooses to stay right in the middle of the lane. Keep in mind, he had a gap to his right side. There was no one to his right side. Usually, how you usually get on and off the pit road is that if there's no one next to you, get as far away as you can from the pit boxes. If there's no one to your right, take up that spot. That's what you usually do. But Ty just stayed dead center in the middle. Hamlin comes out, bam, sideswipes him, surprisingly, extremely massive damage to the right side of Hamlin's car. There was even like a door that was kind of like bending off. There was a bit of a gap between the right side on the front and the right side on the back end of the car. And maybe, who knows, but Hamlin had a fast car, but that damage possibly could have hindered his car enough for him to have a shot at winning or be capable of winning, because he had a fast car before that moment. Now, after that Kyle Busch spin, you had multiple drivers that were doing different types of strategies. Some, like Chris Buescher, Tyler Reddick, and others, they stayed out to get stage points, while other drivers that are running 1, 2, 3, 4, like Bubba Wallace, Ross Chastain, they decided to pit to basically prepare for the race win. And then you had like, I think, a 5 or so lap sprint. Reddick would end up winning stage 1. And then we even had, after that stage, Eric Jones probably didn't see where he was going, just runs into the back end of Martin Truex Jr. Truex spins around. He doesn't hit anything, but again, it was just like that first stage was just, what the hell is happening? We had tires coming off, playoff drivers in trouble, even drivers wrecking after the stage is over. Like, it was just a wacky start to the race. But then we would start to see the old Texas come into play. And when I say old Texas in this new era where, I mean, again, just track position was OP. Tires weren't that much of an issue. It really wasn't that much of a problem. I mean, it doesn't matter if you were on fresh tires or on 2 tires. If you were out front, you were God. Reddick continued to lead until lap 111, where Corey LaJoie spun in turn 2 from the 26th position. Again, another driver with a tire problem. After that LaJoie crash, everyone came in for fuel and tires. Bubba took 2 tires, came in 10th, comes out first. Bubba would have led for a lot of the way in stage 2, until we had the real contenders. That 11 car that we talked about, even though he was still hindered, he still showed some speed, but most importantly, the two drivers, Eric Jones, surprisingly had a fast car, and especially the 5 car of Kyle Larson, who was lights out. He had a badass car, and he drove his way up towards the front with ease. Blew by Bubba Wallace to go ahead and win stage 2. Bubba at this time, his car was falling off, ill handling. I should say would turn too much. His car was loose, so he couldn't get up to the high lane. Everyone was jumping up top. Bubba had to stay down low. He ended up finishing in 9th place after he was leading majority of the way in stage 2. And then stage 3 happened. Stage 3, same thing. Larson continuing to lead. You did have some playoff drivers with issues, like Chastain had a mechanical issue on pit road right before stage 3, so he had to start the back. And then you had Tyler Reddick get trapped a lap down because Daniel Suarez spun during the middle of green flag pit stop, so Reddick was trapped a lap down, got the wave around. And then this is when things get interesting. On lap 246, JJ Yaley, he spins, smacks hard into the outside wall in turn 2 to bring out the caution. Then we get a bit interesting dynamic that happened on pit road. You had Hamlin, Keselowski, Buescher, Logano, and Jones. I believe they all pit. Everyone else stays out. Odd, considering the drivers like Hamlin, Keselowski, and those guys, they were up towards the front. They came on to pit road, which left a couple of drivers, 2 of the best on restarts, and Bubba Wallace and Kyle Larson to duke it out for the closing laps, which around 20 or so laps to go. And we all thought, oh, Larson is just going to take off. But no, Bubba held his own. He was even able to lead that lap on the restart. And then calamity struck in turn 1. Those 2 drivers were just, I don't know, probably about that much between the two, the way they were racing hard going into turn number 1. Larson, he's at a massive aero disadvantage with no air going into his car. That car went around like nothing, smacks the back end of the wall a ton. The leader of the race, who led 99 laps, who had the fastest car out of anyone, out of the race. Bubba somehow didn't hit the wall. He managed to hold on and still remained as the race leader. Then we go to a restart. Bubba, lights out. He doesn't even think about the competition. He is so far ahead until we get another multi-car accident involving numerous playoff drivers. Ryan Blaney, Tyler Reddick both smacked the wall. Then you had Eric Jones collide in, Austin Cindric, and others. We then go to another restart. 5 or so laps ago with Chase Briscoe now to Wallace's inside. Wallace able to get out ahead, but Briscoe fights back. The 2 side by side, they get tight. They have to let off the gas, which allows William Byron to sneak by 3 wide to take the lead from both of them. And that was all he needed. William Byron out in that clean air was able to stay out in front and win at Texas Motor Speedway to not only advance himself into the round of 8, but to earn Hendrick Motorsports their 300th career Cup Series victory, a historical moment. But like I said, also William Byron now advances into the round of 8. And he did so by leading only 6 of the 267 laps. This is Byron's 6th career victory, and he did so beating out Ross Chastain, who was able to recover from that horrible issue on pit road from 28th place. Bubba Wallace, he led the most laps, 111 of 267. He needed to probably have a win in this race, considering that the Roval ends off the round of 12. We know how ill Bubba is on the road courses, but still a career day for him. 1 pole, led the most laps, but fortunately couldn't get the job done. Finishes in the 3rd position. Christopher Bell and Denny Hamlin, even with that damage, still ends up in the top 5. Kevin Harvick, he was nowhere to be found. I don't know how he got to 6th place, but somehow he did. Brad Keselowski, solid run for him in 7th. Daniel Suarez rebounds from that spin in 8th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Chase Briscoe started 31st, comes home in 10th. Hendrick teammates Elliott and Bowman 11th and 12th. Justin Haley, Chris Buescher, Michael McDowell with the top 15. Carson Hocevar, good run for him in 16th place. Martin Truex Jr., Eric Almirola, Ty Dillon, and Harrison Burton. Some other notables like Joey Logano 21st. Ryan Preece 23rd. Reddick 25th. Then you see Penske teammates Cindric and Blaney 27th and 28th. And then Eric Jones, even though he had a great run, comes home in 30th. Larson 31st. Ty Gibbs 33rd. He was out of the race after that contact with Denny Hamlin. Kyle Busch 34th. Then Todd Gillen and Austin Dillon rounds out the grid. Here's a look at the playoff grid after 1 race in the round of 12. William Byron is the only one that can sleep with peace heading into Talladega this weekend. Denny Hamlin plus 37. Good points gap for the 11 car. Chris Buescher in 3rd plus 22. Bell plus 20. Truex plus 19. Chastain plus 12. Keselowski plus 8. Larson goes from plus 12 to now just +2 above the cut line. Bubba Wallace, great run for him. Even though he didn't win, he entered this race -14 and now is -2. He can now just focus on points instead of trying to focus on winning in these next 2 races. And then you see also behind him, Tyler Reddick, his teammate, -3. Blaney stays at 11th, -11. And Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch is shocking. He came into this race +8, leaves Texas -17. My thoughts on this race. Let's focus first on the Larson Bubba incident. Because of the drivers involved, I can't believe I have to say this, but what we saw happen between those 2 drivers was a racing incident. Anyone out there that blames Bubba, you have the IQ of a mud flap, because you honestly have to be mentally ill to honestly think that this is Bubba's fault, because we've seen this happen time after time after time again. Since the COT car, specifically, since the COT car, we've seen drivers get aero loose. Stupid reminder is 2011 with Jimmy Johnson at Charlotte. I think it was him, either Ryan Newman or Casey Kane, who was outside. Johnson got loose and spun. It happens when you have 2 drivers racing for not just any win, but a win to advance yourself to the round of 8 so that you don't have to sleep bad knowing that Talladega's next and you're not locked in. That roll is coming up and you're not locked in. A chance to make it into the round of 8. Look at it from Kyle Larson's side. A chance to win the 300th victory for Hendrick Motorsports. So many things are on the line that, can you blame those 2 for how they race? Can you blame Bubba for how he raced? I mean, it's his job. Any driver would do the same thing that Bubba did. If a driver's on your inside, you're going to make sure he has 0 advantage to you. Of course, you're going to pinch him down. Of course, you're going to make sure he gets no air, because he gave Larson a choice. You either back out the gas or you keep it rolling and risk spinning out. I mean, sorry, that's just how it is. Like, it's not being biased. It's literally, when you look through hundreds of races that have happened, especially in recent years, it's always been like this. That's has happened before. It's nothing new. So I just had to get that off my chest. But for a Texas race, surprisingly pretty interesting. It had its dull moments, typical Texas. But I mean, for Texas standards, it was really good. I give this race a 7 out of 10 based off of Texas standards. If it was based off of mile and a half standards, probably give it a 4. But we know how garbage Texas is. So I'm giving it a 7 out of 10 because I thought it was a lot better than what I was expecting. Larson, once again, a driver that had a win in his hands or a good finish in his hands, throws it away. And a teammate, and William Byron, sneaks by to win it. We also have to look about Kyle Busch now, -17 below the cut line. Goes to a track that, even though he won at Talladega, -17 below the cut line going to Talladega is not something you want over your head. And again, like I said, even though he was the last driver to win there, I mean, we know how bizarre Talladega can be, especially during the playoffs. Very shocking from, you look at some drivers, like Penske, for example, they were non-existent at all. Blaney, yes, Blaney was in front. He had his moments to shine, but that was only based off of track position, and because it is so difficult to pass. As if you could just get your car up there, you can manage, you can hold your own. But no one from Penske had shown any speed at all. Quite shocking to see. You look at it from Joe Gibbs Racing. I mean, I can't really say anything about Truex because he kind of got screwed at the end of stage 1 and just focused always on trying to get back up towards the front. Hamlin was really the only Joe Gibbs Racing driver that showed any speed, and even then, he got caught up in a crash. Reddick, outside of when he used pit strategy to get out in front, he didn't really show much speed. The only Toyota driver was really the 11 car of Hamlin, and the 23 of Wallace. Solid run for Ross Chastain and that Trackhouse team. I mean, after having a pretty sluggish way entering the playoffs, they've seemed to found their mojo a little bit, starting to gain more speed, get more consistent with especially with the number 1 car. Great run for him in second place, a clean second place finish for him. But man, there's a lot of interesting storylines. A lot of drivers that you didn't expect to be in the position there are. Like, no one expected Larson to be right above the cut line. No one expected Bubba to be right below the cut line. Many people probably expected Bubba to be, 11, 12, the bottom feeders, and Larson to advance. No one expected Busch to be the last driver of all playoff drivers. It's very interesting how Texas completely shuffled the playoff grid, going into Talladega, and it's only going to get wilder from here on out. But those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts on the race at Texas? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content. Until next time, my name is Jett from MDK. Congratulations to William Byron, your winner at Texas.